Welcome everyone. So today we are going to see a new feature which is getting introduced as part of 10.8 as job scheduler. As you guys know, the current NMS stations does this job of job scheduler. If you are having a small customers where the network is very small, and if they want to do any kind of a scheduling, especially if they want to run some jobs of a reboot of a switch or a port flap, this feature is going to help them to overcome any kind of a NMS problems in case if they don't have the NMS. So coming back on the job scheduler, as you see on the screen, the job scheduler basically enables you to execute a batch of CLIs where you are going to create like a profile, job and a job name. Under that, you are going to keep all the CLIs, what you needs to be executed. Where in case of a schedule, you want to know when you want to execute that same job under that schedule. Remember one thing, each job depends on each platform. That means how many job profiles you can create depends on each of the CX platform. So under schedule, you can configure one or more jobs to be executed. And you have a way to, as you guys know, the profile always get incremented as soon as you configure anything under a CX profiles on the config mode, it always increments by 10. That sequence number, you can always change it, and you can add number of CLIs if you want to add in the job profile. For example, you're trying to do a port shut and you've forgotten before that one, seeing the interface, whether it is up or down. You want to insert a step, then you can go back and do a resequence of those number and insert. You want to give a delay, that is also possible now. You can introduce a delay with a CLI and start the sequence number which you would like to wish. For example, you onboarding a client and you want to wait for some time before a first client, any packet hits our port. So that's where you want to give the delay. So that is also possible. Coming on to a scheduler, the main key part here is the trigger. Currently, we support 3 types of trigger. One is on every time. That means if you have something like you want to do every 2 hours, some job need to be executed. For example, you want to collect the system health status every 2 hours once, because these are all runtime logs. If you are not executing them, any kind of a telemetry data who wants from the switch, they cannot collect it, right? So that's where periodic execution with the job scheduler will help. So you can execute those logs. For example, you want to collect the system health status. You can use the show resource system utilization command and run every 2 hours. Any NMS station can come and collect through that one through a REST or through a CLI output itself. So that is possible using the job scheduler. Or let's consider you want to clean up your system. You want to delete some files, or you want to collect some of the stats. You are running some L2 VPN or L3 VPN tunnels, and you want to make sure you want to collect some logs from that or the counter details, or you have a UBT tunnel which is running to your gateway, you want to collect the counters. So those all things are possible using the job scheduler. So moving on, these are some of the examples, and then we'll go and look at what are the details about the job and the scheduler in few minutes. If you look at this one, it's a timer ACL. Let's consider you want to run ACL at a certain time. These are the use cases we got during the AOS switch. So that's where you can use the timer ACL as part of the job scheduler. You can configure some of your ACL, you can enable them, and also you can disable depending on your weekdays. The weekly, as you see here, the scheduler timer ACL start, this is the schedule, and the name of the schedule you are giving here. The trigger is you are calling on 20, that is 8 p.m. So weekly on 5. So 5 is nothing but it always starts from Sunday. Sunday is 1, Monday is 2, same way it goes on. So whenever you give this 5, that is nothing but a Friday. So you can enable the job, and also you can call another schedule. Currently, we don't support nested jobs. For example, if you are thinking of calling the timer ACL inside this one only a nested jobs, that is not supported. You have to write the job profile separately as part of 10.8, and you have to call them as separate schedulers. Remember one thing, as we schedule these jobs, every job will be executed sequentially. Even though you are given the same time for both the triggers, execution will only happen, OVSDB will be hit only with the queue parameters. That means the first, whatever the job it comes, even though it's the same time, whichever hits the OVSDB, that job will be executed first, and the next job will be queued. In case if that job is taking more than 5 minutes, then the job will be aborted by the system and the next job will be given a precedence, right? So the next job will be executed. That means in the worst case, if you have given a job to be executed at 8 p.m. for both the job, the first job will be executed, whichever hit the first, the OVSDB will be executed at 8 o'clock, and the next one, worst case, will execute at 8:05. Okay. So moving on, this is another example where you can collect some of the telemetry data I was talking about, where you can create a job profile, telemetry data, and enable this show system and collect these resources, whatever the utilization you have, and the environment details, especially if you have a line cards, when you are using a 8400 or a 6400, these are all going to be useful, and you want to even get the output of your warnings for that system, right? So what happens is these output is you can query from the REST URIs, and you can collect it from your NMS. So that's the beauty of job scheduler. It's coming as part of the 10.8. I have more examples which I'm going to show you as part of the demo. Before going into more of a demo detail, let's understand some of the details about the job. As I already said in the overview, job is about what you needs to be executed. That means all the set of CLIs, you have to put it inside the job profile. Currently, the maximum number of CLIs you can put per job is 20 commands. For example, you create a job called shut and no shut. You execute first a show version, show clock. So every CLI is counted as one command, and 20 commands are allowed per job. Same way, you can create 32 jobs in a 6300 platform. Every platform varies depending on the capacity, because we have to save this output. When we execute these jobs, we have to keep those as a persistence, isn't it, before you reload. And after the reload also, this data will be saved, and I'm going to show you as part of the demo. So that means in a 6300 platform, you can have 32 jobs created, job profiles created, and these 32 jobs, if you want to schedule them, you can call them, all of them, in a schedule. Currently, the limitation is only 10. These jobs can be called per schedule. In case if you want to call all of them, that means you have to create more than one schedule at different profile, right? So currently, non-interactive CLI commands are not supported. Only yes, that means if you're rebooting, it is going to ask for 2S, as you guys know. One is going to ask for a reboot. That means it's going to do a write mem. And the next one it's going to ask for is if it is a VSF stack or so, it's going to say, I'm going to reload the overall box. So those kind of yes condition, currently it is supported as part of 10.8. So wherever you have a complex username or a password which involves anything, that is not supported as part of 10.8. Deleting a job, let's consider you created a jobs, number of 5 jobs are created, and you schedule them as part of one schedule, and you don't want one of the job. As soon as you delete the job, nothing will impact the schedule. Rest of the 4 jobs will run, but the job will be automatically deleted from the scheduler. And each job takes execution of 5 minutes, as I said, and after the 5 minutes, it automatically force stopped. And if you are thinking of doing a packet capture, let's consider it's going to keep on going forever. And what is going to happen is after 5 minutes, it's that packet capture job will be stopped and given a next queue job a permission. So next, the job cannot be executed if you are trying to execute the same repetition. Let's consider you are trying to execute the packet capture again. That is not allowed till the next 30 minutes. So these are the current restriction which you can see when you are trying to execute the job scheduler. While the job is there before the reboot, if you want to check all the logs, you can see it from the Linux start stall. And also this is possible from the show command also. Show job and the job name, execution output, whatever the execution output you have. And if you give the one, that is the current output of the job, which is going to display from the command prompt itself. But if you want to copy the file, which is in the job history, you can see here, this is the folder, you can copy those files to a different location. Why I'm saying this copy is currently this copy command from the job scheduler is not supported as part of 10.8. If you want to, let's consider you rebooted the switch and you want to see the logs what you executed before that previous reboot, you can get into a /fs logs of the boot history, and you will see all the logs there. Moving on to a schedule, which is an important part of a job scheduler, where we saw what needs to be executed. This is when need to be executed. By default, all the schedules, whatever we are going to create, are going to be persistence. Means if you have created any schedule profiles, they are going to stay. But you want to create a schedule profile for a transient state. For example, you want to do a one-time reboot, that's it, and you don't want the next reboot to happen. For that, we have a schedule called schedule transit. So where you can create that one, and only one time it will execute, and after that, it will not execute just after that reboot. And 10 jobs are allowed per schedule. That means each job has 20 commands. In case if you have more commands, you have to create a different job profile and a different schedule to run them in a sequential manner. This is something very, very important. A schedule can have currently the schedule has 3 types of trigger. One is a periodic. That means you want every 30 minutes some job to be executed. As I told you, health status is one of the good example. Or you want to run calendar. For example, every Friday evening, you want to reboot the box and change the default gateway, right? That is possible. And that is a calendar trigger. One stop, as I told you, you want to reboot the box as a transit one time, and you just want to see the output. Or if you're trying to collect some of the parameters like ACL apply, and you want to see one-time execution, how it's going to happen, whether the overall network is going to be fine when after you apply the ACL, those are all things are one shot. That means it's going to execute. If you use trigger inside the schedule, it's going to execute one time, and that's it. So moving on with certain more examples on the same. So as you see here, I have a J1 and a job J1. This is doing a no shut of the interface, and it is giving a delay of 1. It is nothing but a 1 second, and it is issuing the show run interface of this. And J1, I have a S1, which is a schedule for this J1. I've called only one job inside this S1, and trigger as I explained, it is a only one-time occurrence, and that's it. If you see the output of the same, show job J1 execution output 1 will display all the output. You can watch here very carefully. If you directly go to a no shut, after that there is a delay, which is also important. Many times, many use cases ask for a delay. So that's where you can see here, it is going to give a delay of 1 second, 0.5 and 0.6, and then going to issue whatever the commands you have. J2 is every 30 minutes. If you want to execute, this is the way you're going to execute them. And if you want to schedule as a calendar, so trigger on this time, monthly 28th, start from the today. So that's what you're going to give. That's where the trigger on is going to come in. This is an example for a port flap as well as for the reboot of the switch. Here, the reboot schedule, which you can see here, I'm not given transit. That means this schedule is going to stay even after the reboot. That means the trigger is going to continue to work monthly once this box is going to reboot automatically. Trigger on 3 a.m. monthly 31st. Let's consider the month is not having the 31st. The last day of the month will be considered. Here you look at this trigger. In case of it has to go through a port flap, the problem statement is you want to do it weekly, 2nd and the 6th day. So you can do it weekly, 2nd, the Tuesday and the Saturday. You're doing that one. And you can give the count, how many counts you want, and what is the start date you want, all of that. These are some of the show commands, which will provide you a complete details about what you have configured inside the job profile. Show job, the port will give you all the CLIs. As I was telling you, increment of 10. This is the default. You don't have to configure. Let's consider I want to insert, I missed a show version. I want to insert, I can always go back and say 15 CLI. It's the same way you configure the ACLs in AOS-CX switches. And the next one is this show schedule. One of the best thing is here, all the details will be known, trigger type, whether it is a calendar, periodic, or at once. That will be known. Whether it is enabled or not, you will know. And also description, very clearly it provides whatever the description, both are supported with the description job as well as the schedule provides the description facility for you. And is it a transit or not? So max trigger count also it will provide, and the trigger start date it will provide. The one good part is it will tell you all the jobs running as part of the schedule. Let's consider you don't want some of the things. By execution of show schedule, you can get to know what are the jobs are there, and you can just go and delete them from the config mode, or you can get into this schedule and then delete. This I find it easier when you're, especially when you're doing an operational, you want to try some of the things, whether it works or not, especially default gateways of your uplink. If the backup link works or not, those all things, if you want to try, these are going to be, job scheduler is going to be handy. So the let's look at the configuration. This is the way you're going to create a configuration job and number of CLIs, and the schedule you are going to give the as I was telling you, on the transit. So what is going to happen is it's going to execute once and this schedule will get vanished. If you want to see for a reboot, because you rebooted the box, you don't know how the box was booted because job history file is only there, the box, till the box is alive, right? So once you booted the box, you don't have the output. So the way you have to check is show boot history will clearly tell you whether it was initiated by the user or not, and what time. You can see here, I've initiated at 8:05. So 8:05 was executed and reboot was requested by the user. It will clearly show, because you cannot execute the command which I was showing you. If you see the screen, this command you can't execute, show job and the job name execution output 1, it will give you empty output because the box has rebooted and the logs are there in the permanent folder /fs, which you have to get into a start shell and see that one. To see the output of a boot history, this is the way you're going to check it. And this is one of the most important command in AOS-CX is checking the daemons. How many times the scheduler is started triggered and how they are running. Show events -r -a you can use, and use this whatever the daemons we have. So for all the daemons, I would request, for if you are configuring a feature, check for the daemon and use this command. It's going to be more handy for you. It will tell you whether the trigger happened or not. Even in other cases also, for this feature, you can watch here, it is creating a schedule 1 and it is triggering at this point of time and it is giving you all the details. Okay, with that, let's move on. So these are some more examples as I saw from the AOS switch, which people requested. Like these all you can directly use while you create your schedule. Just you can use the CLI syntax. Let's consider you want to run 1 p.m. on every Monday and Thursday. This is how you're going to create trigger on 1 p.m. So weekly 2 and 4 start from today. Okay. And 20, these are the same way you can see here. Every example is, you can clearly see from the CLI syntax with the examples. This is something on the scale. So if you want to check what is the scale supported per platform on AOS-CX switches, show capacity job will tell you. In case of a 8320, it is saying execution output it can preserve is 10. That means before the reboot. Remember, this is before the reboot. If you want to see what is the latest execution, you can say show job the execution output 1. That will tell you the latest. And if you execute 10, that is the last one it can keep because of the memory. Right, maximum number of job configured, you can configure on the 8320 is 32, and same is true for 6300 also. So on the schedule wise, you can configure 10 jobs in a schedule per schedule, and like that you can create a 32 schedules in a system. These are the event logs. As you know, in AOS-CX, these event IDs are permanent for the whatever the daemons we are going to give. So you can see here, this is the it starts from 1 to 01 and it goes till 03. That means these event logs are kept for the job scheduler, and you will see that in the while execution of, as I told you, explained you, show events -r -d. As soon as you execute the scheduler D, you will see them. This is very important as part of the what we see as the feature support. CLI commands are supported. If you have an enable mode, that means both are by default, it is enabled. That means job as well as the schedule by default it is enabled. And you have if you want to do a per module, let's consider you want to do a OR of a module, that is supported. Redundancy switchover is supported. If you want to collect a diagnostic, yes, dump data collection is supported. Packet capture is supported. Currently, what is not supported is a bigger list. Copy command, show tech, show job. These are all things are not supported. Those show job is coming as a job scheduler. We are not supporting that one because of the number of restrictions currently with the 10.8. And in case anything, if you are thinking is priority for your customer, please write an email to us. We will be able to prioritize them. So let's see the quick demo on this one. The first thing you have to check is the show job. The command for the checking the show job is the command, as you see here, show job. We don't have a command like as you see in most of the things like show running config port access, we don't have. So the easy way to see all the jobs in the configuration mode is give the show running configuration begin and the job. So this way you will see all the jobs which are configured. Let me go through all of them quickly for you so that you understand. You can see here I have a job which is going to do a reboot. Usually the best practice is always have the show version before you execute that job and have the clock, because that way you will know what is the time you're triggering that job. And here I'm doing a write mem and doing a reboot of the system. This is going to be, you can call this, you can create this kind of job profile and keep it on the system. Nothing is going to happen until unless you trigger them from the scheduler. So here I have a interface no shut. You can see I've given the interface no shut version and a clock, and I'm getting into that interface and executing this one. If I want to see, let's consider I want to see this job, whether it executed or not, and it was part of any schedule. Let us see that one. Show schedule is the command. As soon as you execute, all the schedules will display. There is a schedule called all. In that all, I've called a telemetry data, one job, another job is interface shut, another job is interface no shut, and another job is a reauth job. So what I'm going to do is show job, and I have to provide a job name. If you see here, it is going to ask you show job is going to display everything, but I want a particular job output. For example, I want a no shut. I'm going to give the no shut, and execution output one, it's going to give you the latest execution which happened. Okay, you can see here, this is the latest execution which has happened recently, and it's going to give you all the details about the no shut. It currently it is admin down, and you can see it is bringing up the port with execution of the no shut. Okay, so this is on the port flap of the interface. So you can also watch what is there in that schedule, right? So schedule running config is going to be a kind of a big one. So instead of that one, better to use a show schedule, and you can get the job and use the show running config include begin job. That way you'll know what is happening inside that job. Okay, you can see here there is another schedule which is collect periodic telemetry. I've called the job, but there is no trigger. That means this will never be triggered. We can trigger that one now by using a at command, but which I was showing you schedule all. You can see I have called a telemetry, and there is one job and interface shut, no shut, and a reauth, which I showed was the interface no shut, which is executing at 30. Let's consider if you want to insert any more jobs. Let's consider you want to repeat any jobs. You can do that by changing the sequence number, right? If you want to execute 15 and I have a job, let's consider reboot, I can call that one job and insert that switch reboot. What happens in this one, remember, as soon as you are calling it as a 15, once after the first job, the second job will be executed, box is going to go for a reboot. These all things will be not executed. Every time you will see 20, 30, 40 will never be executed. So whenever you are doing so, please mindful of these all steps and execute them. Okay. Let's see this output. One more thing is show capacity job is something you have to check for knowing each of the platform. This is the command to check your scale. Show schedule is going to give you, especially show capacity schedule is going to give you all the schedule profiles you can configure on each of the platform. So these are the commands which they have introduced. And moving on to one more command, which is on the transit, which I have to tell you is, let's consider I'm creating a schedule reboot. And you can see here, this is what I was talking about. This will be executed only one time. After that, it will be stopped. That means next reboot, this will not be persistent. But any other schedules which you are going to create without this keyword transit will be persistent across the reboot. The another one thing which is for debugging purpose is show events -R -D, and all the daemons you can display here and execute this schedule D, which is a daemon which we have for the job scheduler. You can see all the triggers which is happening. It's currently running a count of 9 because I've given a periodic count. That's where it is running the count of 9, and it is indefinite. If you see here, show schedule, you can see it is periodic and indefinite, and it is not a transit. It is enabled and it is running every 30 minutes once. Okay. That means now it is running once it has completed the first trigger. Now next trigger is 15:24. This is how the job scheduler overall it's going to work. With that, I'll stop here and over back to Ruben.
Okay. So with that, we're ready to wrap up. And let me close here.
I think, Ruben, I have few questions. If you are okay, I can answer them.
Yes, if you can take a look at the open questions while we prepare for wrap up.
Sure. So the first question we have is, job scheduler, can I run the jobs in Bash? It's currently it is only supported, as I showed you, it is CLI commands for enable mode and the config mode. The Bash command is not supported. And we are using, as you guys know, we have in Linux, we have two types of job schedulers which you can run. One is the cron tab, another one is the system timer. So we are using a method of system timer method. If you Google, you will get to know what is system timer method. We are using same implementation on AOS-CX. The straight answer to that, can I run some of the Bash command? No, you can't run using the job scheduler. For a job scheduler, next question is, for a job scheduler, each job is sequential, not at once. Correct? Yes, it's all the jobs are sequential. So that means even though you have kept the same timer for both the jobs in a different schedule also, or in the same schedule, does not matter, because it's going to execute sequentially only. So maximum each job will be executed is, for worst case, it's going to be 5 minutes. After that, it's going to be forcefully aborted, and the next job will be given permission. Okay, how can we send the output to the NMS? Currently, this is only through a REST, because we support REST. We don't have a copy command supported as per today. And you have to wait for the next release for that. Job schedule, possible to start a Python script? Yeah, so this is another very good question. Can I have a nested a Python script or any TCL scripts call inside a job scheduler? You have to wait for that complete solution. We are working on that. So you will see calling of some of these scripts inside a job scheduler, or there is a different framework which we are coming up. So we are going to discuss that in the next releases. I definitely understand. This is supported on our computation as well as on Comware switches. So we are going to see this one in the next phase. To be clear, job only takes 60 seconds to complete. Next job will start in next minute. Saying not matter, each job starts. Okay, yeah, you are absolutely right. So let's consider if a job, that's what I said, worst case, like a packet capture when you are doing, it is going to take 5 minutes or more, because you never know when it's going to stop, right? There is no control C on that one. So that's where we are going to give a forceful stop for that one. But if a job completes within a seconds or so, does not matter. So every next job will be automatically queued and executed. If I compare what possible AOS and AOS-CX, I see following. Yes. Yeah, I understand this is a limitation currently, so which we are going to work on the roadmap. This is the roadmap item as per the job scheduler. Can we run the job scheduler to disable the PoE on all ports? Yes, you can do so, because it's a config command. If you want to remove each port and enable them PoE on all them, yes, you can do that. So it is because it's a CLI. So you are going to go to the config mode and the interface mode. You are going to disable each PoE port. No PoE, power over Ethernet, right? No power over Ethernet on each of the interfaces. That way the PoE will be disabled from all the access port at a regular time. And you can just have two jobs. One is for disable, another one is for enable. All the 48 ports you can disable at whatever the time you wish to. You can schedule that one as PoE scheduler for shutdown and PoE scheduler for switch on. So that way both will be, you can achieve that one. That's all the questions I have for the job scheduler.